After Arisha's marriage, she started fearing the nights. Her bedroom window faced directly toward the old village graveyard, an overgrown place with no walls, just wild bushes, leaning headstones, and broken graves. Even in daylight, it looked unsettling, but at night, it was pitch black. For the first few nights, Arisha kept the window tightly shut, trembling with fear. But the summer heat made the air unbearable. One night, she gathered her courage and left the window slightly open. It was a moonless night. Her husband, Soel, was fast asleep. Suddenly, Arisha awoke. There was a damp, rotten smell in the air, like moss and decay. She turned restlessly, but the smell wouldn't go away. Then she heard it, a faint whisper, right outside the window, as if coming from beneath the ground. At first, she thought it was the wind, or maybe a jackal. But then the whisper grew clearer, unmistakably human, and calling her name. Arisha. Her chest tightened. She sat up, her heart thudding. Who's there? The voice came again, cold, broken, trembling. Arisha, come here. I want to show you something. Arisha froze. Someone from the graveyard was calling her name in the middle of the night? She jolted Soel awake. Wake up! Someone's calling me! Listen! Half asleep, Soel mumbled, It's just the wind through the trees. Go back to sleep. But Arisha knew it wasn't the wind. Curiosity fought with fear. She slowly peered through the gap in the shutters. At first, she saw nothing. Then, near a freshly dug grave, a tall, thin shadow began to rise, slowly, as if someone was standing up from under the soil. The shape was human, but without clear features. Arisha gasped and pulled back. Her skin went cold. Then came the voice again, closer now, right by the window, a mournful whisper mixed with pain. They buried me alive. I can't sleep. You woke me up. Now you'll never sleep again. Arisha clutched her pillow and whispered verses from the Quran. She reached under her pillow for the small Quran she always kept there and pressed it to her chest. The moment she did, the cold wind stopped, the smell and the whisper gone. When she dared to open her eyes, the night was silent again. No shadow, no sound. But the next morning, when she went to close the window, she saw something that made her blood run cold. On the dusty wooden shutter, there were 5 long, narrow finger marks, as if someone from outside had pressed hard against the wood. That day, Arisha made a vow. No matter how hot it got, she would never open that window again. She hammered it shut permanently. Even after sealing the window, Arisha couldn't shake off the fear. The image of those long finger marks haunted her. She convinced Soel to sleep in his mother's room. It was farther from the graveyard. For a few nights, things were peaceful. Arisha began to think the nightmare was over, but she was wrong. One night, as she passed through the courtyard, she looked toward the old window and froze. In the dim moonlight, she saw new finger marks, this time on the inside of the shutter. It was as if the same spirit that once tried to come in was now already inside. Arisha's body numbed. She ran to her mother-in-law's room and told her everything. Her mother-in-law's face turned pale. "That's not a good sign," she whispered. "If it's inside the house, Allah help us." The next morning, Soel and Arisha inspected the window together. Sure enough, there were handprints, dusty and long, on the inside of the wood. Arisha sobbed. "What do we do? It won't leave us alone." Soel, trying to stay calm, said, "We'll call the imam. He'll know what to do." The imam came later that afternoon. As soon as he entered the house, he frowned. He could smell something, that same mossy, decayed stench. Arisha and Soel smelled nothing, but the imam's face darkened. He closed his eyes and recited verses softly. Then he said gravely, "This is no ordinary spirit. Something from that graveyard, a jinn perhaps, has attached itself to this house." Arisha's voice trembled. To me?" The imam nodded slightly. "It follows whoever it sees through that window. That was its doorway." He gathered some clay from the ground and began marking the wall below the window, strange Arabic letters and protective symbols. Then he wrote verses from the Quran on small papers and fixed them above the window and door. "This will create a barrier," he said. "It cannot cross this boundary now, but remember, never open that window again." That night, Arisha and Soel returned to their old room. The air was cold and heavy. The markings glowed faintly in the moonlight. Arisha watched the window nervously. Suddenly, a dark mist began to swirl near the shutter, moving like smoke, pushing against the wood as if trying to enter, but it couldn't. It hit the invisible barrier and hissed, a sharp, angry, inhuman sound. Arisha shut her eyes and prayed. The hiss grew louder, then faded. The mist sank down, seeping into the floor, disappearing into the earth. The room became still again. The air warmed. Arisha opened her eyes, and the window stood quiet. The barrier had worked. The evil spirit was gone, for now. But as she drifted back to sleep, one thought lingered in her mind. What if it finds another way back